and viewers. This is not Geeks and Gamers. Hello. My name is Kiss, and welcome back to KTV Network. Today I'm reacting to The Games Industry is Changing Forever, and They Don't Know It Yet by Mug Thief. Let's see what he has to say. Let's watch. I love his breakdowns too, so we're gonna go ahead and wait. We're gonna go back because apparently this doesn't know how to cooperate. Boom. Okay, here we go. You can stop playing.
There is a tangible shift in the video games industry at the moment, and it's mostly happening because the people making video games is divided into two camps. There are giant companies that need to play it safe and make as much money as possible.
Get gruff and rough with the criminals as Stone's Bulldog operators.
His audio is very clear, so I'm trying to
Oh God,
equalize it
look,
because
it
I'm very
grows.
soft-spoken.
It grows the funny plant. $30. Guys, it comes with a weed explosion, death effects.
And then there's people
Not
who
weed
love making
explosion,
video
death
games
effect.
and just kind of want to make a living from it. And over the last 3 years or so, I think it's become pretty clear what people want to see more of. We've been talking about the failures of AAA and the rise of AA for a pretty long time now, but it's mostly because it's true. However, the circumstances for this are changing. And very quickly. We saw a very large exodus
Good.
from a lot of different places
Yes!
last year.
For the makers of Mass Effect, not Andromeda.
There's a lot of veteran talent going off on their own, starting their own studios, indie projects, new publishers popping up. And now we're starting to see a lot of those come out and have a lot of success, a lot of these AA projects, in a situation that's very delicate. With the world in a state of economic uncertainty, people are now valuing their time and their money much higher than they have before, and they don't want to waste money and waste time on subpar products that exist exclusively to try and siphon both of those things from them. And all of these circumstances are kind of coming together at the same time that is primed to have a completely new wave of video game creators and video games take over. And look, the giant mass market blockbusters, those can still sell well. Those can even still be good games. They can even be fun, if maybe they're becoming a little stale and just a little bit too safe. But I think it's becoming clear that the winners of all of this are precisely the teams putting as much passion into what they make as possible. The ones that are guided by the simple idea of, we really want to make this game and we want it to be good, and hopefully that means it'll sell well, instead of whatever the marketing surveys and the focus groups of the boardrooms say in the big companies. The big difference now is that technology, the tools available, are really affording those smaller teams that want to bet on themselves to rival a lot of those big AAA releases. The tech is there for those teams to bring their visions to life. It seems like every other week there's some big headline of ex-Ubisoft developers form a new studio, ex-BioWare, ex-Bethesda, ex-whatever. And those are just following in the footsteps of the people who did that 3-4 years ago and are...
Yes, I've heard that the director, the founder of this game, Expedition 33, was bored of working for Ubisoft, and so he created his own company. That's commitment.
coming out with their games
And
now.
embarrassing
A lot of
for
those being
Ubisoft.
industry veterans that are breaking free from some of the constraints that the environment of a giant company has. Environments
Right.
that are so fragile and micromanaged in order to make sure that things can continue working, that the lights stay on, that nobody's afforded the freedom of taking risks. I think that for a lot of us, Baldur's Gate 3 was really the first time that we looked at an indie game, which it technically is.
Oh, I didn't know Baldur's Gate was an indie game. That's what's up. It's so well done. Wow. The fact that it has a limited amount of people working on it and it came out so graphically stunning, you know? And also the thing about taking risks is that it's safer to work on an already established IP than again with companies that have no idea what they're working on than to create something that's original.
Is in a very different light. A team of people who had already put so much passion into the CRPG genre that went out of their way to get the Baldur's Gate license, and then crafted a game with so much love and passion put into it that it defied everything the industry had been saying for so long that CRPGs are dead. And from there, that sort of story has repeated and gained momentum, and it's not showing any signs of stopping. I firmly believe that the latest example of this is Clair Obscur Expedition 33. A team of 30 developers,
haven't played it yet,
many of them ex-Ubisoft, that decided to pursue their passion of creating a JRPG. And it's a game that feels from top to bottom like a bunch of JRPG nerds got into a room and crammed everything that they love about the genre from the last 30 years. Doesn't matter if it's Final Fantasy IX or Legend of Dragoon or Persona. Heck, Xenogears is in there somewhere. And they just mashed everything they liked about all of those games together and made it work. You can't do that if you're not doing it with passion, because on paper that sounds like a mess. And when you play the game, you're like, oh wow. But don't worry, we'll be talking more about Expedition 33 later on in this video. But I wanted to shout them out here at the start because I just think it's cool that the latest flag in this constant change is French. So, you know, Vive la Révolution! Or something like that. I don't know. The point is that these changes and what's happening surrounding them are worth talking about. We are seeing how the industry is changing for the better mostly when it comes to the types of games we get, the quality of games we get, how pro-consumer they are, and where a lot of the power of the industry resides. At a moment that coexists with Sony trying to charge us $40 for Concord and Nintendo trying to charge us $80.
Wait, Concord was 40? Wow. Still cheap and nobody wanted to buy it.
To $90 for Mario Kart World. At a time of uncertainty with stuff like the future price of GTA 6 and what's going to happen with the business of it all, we get to see the other side of all of this conversation as well. And so, this is what we're going to cover in this video. Number one, that there is a changing of the guard coming. There are failures of very large companies and huge successes of small ones that, if they continue on this path, won't take too long to be big themselves. Why those things are actually happening. And no, this isn't going to be a video where I just sit here and go, corporation bad, indies good, because there's more to it, and I'll try and make that interesting. Why we have more power than ever. Why that whole idea of it doesn't matter what we say. In reality, the new big thing is gonna sell anyways, and people just like eating slop. It's not really that true anymore.
Pokemon Scarlet and Violet really disappointed me. The glitch. The amount of glitches in that game. And I wasn't even playing on Nintendo. Like, I wasn't even playing on the Switch. It was so bad. And I have adequate hardware.
And we have the numbers. I got receipts to back that up.
Is so
the
sad
third part
to
also
see.
comes with like a mini segment of just me talking about Clair Obscur and some of the stuff that's gone on with that and Oblivion Remastered. Number 4, why, even if this goes to the best case scenario, there's always a danger that it just becomes a cycle that has existed in many other fields for a long time in its repeating form, and what we need to look out for with that. And number 5, our role in all of this. What we can do to prevent a cycle and to keep things honest so that great games succeed and we get to play more great games. And of course, there's like timestamps down below for everything, as per usual, okay? And also, by the way, hi, I'm Mug, and if you're new here, welcome. And if you're not new here, welcome back. Now, I must say that Tia belle d'aujourd'hui, très splendide. I think,
wow,
I'm not confident
so well.
in French, but I think that's supposed to mean like, you look great today, because you do.
Thank
Remember
you.
that if
Thank
at
you.
any point you enjoy this video, you think what's here is worth sharing, hit the like button, because that helps this video reach more people. It helps the channel grow and hopefully create a wonderful community that's focused on, great video games. And also, consider in the back of your mind somewhere that if you like this sort of stuff and what I do, think about subscribing. I'm not asking for you to do it blindly. I want to earn your subscription. I want you to be sure that what I bring to the table is worth your time. With all of that out of the way, let's get into it. Yeah, Andrew, how's it going? Look, listen, man. So Fortnite, they got Sabrina
Not the
Carpenter in the
suit
game.
and
We need
Ray-Bans.
something that can compete with that. We need something that the kids are into.
Sabrina
Can we
Carpenter.
get something like I don't know, like Imagine Dragons? Wait, what's that you said? Oh, Sven Vink is talking at the Game Awards.
On stage. It's stupidly simple, but somehow it keeps on getting lost. Studio made their game because they wanted to make a game that they wanted to play themselves. They created it
What do you
because
mean?
it hadn't been created before. They didn't make it to increase market share. They didn't
What
make
about
it
brand
to
synergy?
serve as a brand. And furthermore, the people in charge forbade them from cramming the game with anything whose only purpose was to increase revenue.
But I need
They
revenue.
didn't treat their developers like numbers on a spreadsheet. And they didn't make decisions that you were short-sighted in function of a bonus.
What do you mean? But you need to seize the day, seize the market, feel the market. The market's
They were
inside of you.
driven and wanted players to have fun.
I don't want the players to have fun. I need the players to play every day. This dude is absolutely out of his mind. This is an anomaly. So you
That must absolutely be sarcasm, because players will play if it's enjoyable.
you can't speak
That's
like
funny.
this as if it's gonna be working for everybody.
Winning game of the year.
Wait.
Turned out to be a lot
Stuart, yeah. So yes, I heard about the Apex numbers falling. Yeah, they're losing players like crazy. How quickly can we get a hero shooter battle royale, maybe put in a little bit of extraction in it, get it out the door, try and get those players? Now, I know that I'm not crazy. I know that you felt it too. More and more bigger video games just don't feel sincere anymore. They lack a certain spark. There's a lack of creativity. There's just this sanding down of all of the edges to make sure that it's something that's going to appeal to as many people as possible. A game for everyone is a game for no one type of stuff. And that's
Yeah.
reflected in what a lot
Yeah.
of people play. People get more excited for remasters of 20-year-old games.
And that's something a lot of developers tried doing for the past, 5 years, just to appeal to everyone and thus failing to hit a target niche.
Than they do for new one. And I would love to say that that's just because of nostalgia, but let's be honest, it isn't. It's because it doesn't matter how many warts something from the past has, they have charm. They have a soul to them. And the good news is that there's plenty of people who either grew
The
up playing
fuck
those
kills
games
me.
or made them back in the day and want to keep making them, that want that to continue, that think that's important for games. I would actually say that most people working in games want that. And that's why, aside from stuff like remasters, a lot of indie
that looks
games,
like fun.
smaller productions from AA studios that can afford to actually have their game sell less and just be extra happy if it sells well, are starting to do really well. Be that because it's about people really trying to put their passion into a game, be that because it's people that are just
That looks like
trying
it's
the
Telltale
craziest
inspired.
ideas that they can come up with, or because they're taking inspiration from things from the past and trying to bring them into the future.
Zoom
Things
in
that other
further.
companies have decided are not popular, are not cool anymore,
Zoom
that they
in
won't
further.
sell enough for the investment, and essentially giving a large group of people exactly what they want. And as we see time and time again, that group of people is way bigger than the niche that larger companies seem to think it is. The real changing of the guard
right.
happens because we start
was
to see more
well-deserved.
successes on one side of this argument and a lot more failures on the other, in a pretty consistent manner. Eventually, the power and the trends are going to be put
This was such a disappointing game. Like, especially, what the fuck? They hired, Kareem Bush? It was supposed to be the Dreadwolf. It was supposed to be a return to form, and then we got this slop. I will say, to be fair, the game, the magic of it all, it looks nice, and the physics of the hair, which from another YouTuber we were having this discussion. I forget his name, but you know they excelled on that. But everything else, terrible, terrible. Not a return to form at all.
In the hands of the people who sell the most, who are championed the most, who people enjoy the most. And that power dynamic seems to be shifting quite a lot very often. Now, none of this means that GTA 6 is going to do poorly. None of this means that there aren't people out there that are going to buy Mario Kart World. And as I promised in the intro, none of this is here to say big...
It's running on the legs of GTA 5, and they're counting on, you know, the consumers counting on it not being woke. Because, you know, in order to cater to wokeness, you have to cater to a certain age, and that's not GTA 6. You know, they're making the female player a female, sure, but they're marketing that towards men, which is smart, because she has all the physics. And, you know, even though I'll be playing as Jason for the most part, I will be delegating to Lucia for those seductive type of missions, you know.
Corporation bad. More often, I think it's a case of big corporation stupid or big corporation very bloated. So in what I'm sure is going to be a completely non-controversial thing to say, I think it's
bloated to the point where they don't have any say in what's going on in the game. They don't know about the story. That's crazy.
It's completely logical that these large companies actually have to send down those games and try and maximize profits. It's kind of the nature of being a publicly traded company and reporting to your shareholders. It makes sense that they are incredibly risk averse and they don't want to put pretty much any effort into anything that even slightly has a whiff of failure. Because it's just that they haven't been aware for a long time of what exactly people are asking of them.
And because they're in this little echo chamber that they absolutely refuse to step outside of. And now is the time, since this pendulum is swinging the other way, now is the time that I'm actually listening to gamers, because people are refusing to buy their products. And they have noticed whenever they lash out at consumers, just like, take for instance, Volition from Saints Row the reboot. Look at what happened to them.
What they really want. They refuse to listen to what the customers say over and over again. And they bury their heads into this hole of, well, but the latest Assassin's Creed still sold really well. And we're just going to kind of ignore the fact that it sold less than the previous one. We're going to ignore the fact that the group of people out there that are willing to buy these video games that are simply another one of those, without really trying to break the mold or do anything new, and that feel a lot of the time like they were made by literally thousands of people, those are starting to become risky gambles. Gigantic mega projects of an unfathomable scale that, with the amount of money necessary to produce, need to have returns. You're betting big, but the tiniest mistake could cost you, well, your entire company, unless Tencent comes in to save you, I guess. And I genuinely think, and from the people I've spoken to, there's just a lot of people who love video games trying to make good games, and a lot of companies telling them, no, we should make this. And they still put in as much passion as they can. It just gets kind of lost in all of the thousands of hands. So many cooks that I don't even think it's a broth anymore. And this all stands in very stark contrast to
so many cooks are working on different dishes for the same customer. What? For one customer, huh?
To the underdog. And
I don't know if that makes sense to you.
Everybody likes to root for an underdog. But behind the underdogs...
Wait, is that scheduled?
Story,
is that what people are playing?
There's actually a very interesting financial picture of success. Thousands of hands. So many cooks that I don't even think it's a broth anymore. And this all stands in very stark contrast to the underdog. And I mean,
that's Repo.
Everybody likes to root for an underdog. But behind the underdog story, there's actually a very interesting financial picture of success, and that's the type of stuff that shapes the industry to come. These self-funded, crowd-funded, small project to small project funded teams that slowly grow and execute on their vision they
What's
can find
RoboCop?
success and live well, affording
Yes.
themselves the ability to keep chasing that dream. But if they ever hit it big, the difference between the money that they
Is
can
it on
make
here?
and how much money they spend on making the games is how AA studios are kind of born. Either little by little knowing your audience, or with a big surprise hit, suddenly things expand and a team.
That game pissed me off, Sifu. I couldn't find the saving feature or the revive feature. It was the tree.
That previously was trying to give something more honest, a team that has something to prove, something to earn, gets to fight in the arena with the big boys. And then all of it kind of comes together. These new teams and studios of people who have left where they were, or completely new upstarts, or just a dude in a bedroom. They're hungry, they're passionate, and they're dreamers. They are incentivized to not just make a great game, but to offer it to you at a great price. And because they have nothing to lose, they don't need to sell you a game for $90 and then shove 50 different microtransactions down your throat anyways. They don't need to sell you
Right.
Marathon for $40 plus the season pass plus the
Because-
microtransaction.
because they're
and they
confident in
definitely
their
don't need
games.
the numbers that Marathon needs to be profitable. And every day we see more of these projects crop up, and we see them find success. And I, for a while, used
The
to work at a
change.
bank. Hence the suits. I didn't buy it just for the one sketch, okay? And this is going somewhere. Sorry for the wardrobe change. I thought it would be funny. But at the bank, everybody referred to it the same way, as the dinosaur. They used to say that it was just like a dinosaur in the sense that it was incredibly old, that it moved incredibly slowly, and it might as well at this point be a fossil. And that's the other incredible advantage that joins together with all of that hunger, that passion, that willingness to deliver that these new teams have, that they're free from that corporate bloat. They can adapt, they can change, they can act quickly, and they can execute on their vision without compromise of all of the blue, red, and black tape that is everywhere throughout corporate structures and different teams and different decision makers and all sorts of supervision. They can commit to a vision, and when they do, we notice that in the games that they put out. We feel that when we play them. And it's that charm, that quality, that connection, that care for the player, for the customer at the end of the day, that makes us fall in love with them. Not the fact that over 4,000 people from 17 different studios helped make the assets for it. We have a lot to say in this. In the intro of this video, I talked about Clair Obscur Expedition 33. Funnily enough, kind of backed by Microsoft. Day one available on Game Pass, featured in that Xbox Developer Showcase. They're supporting this game and backing it, but then they also released Oblivion Remastered 2 days before the launch of Expedition 33. And honestly, that led to one of the coolest things that I've seen within the gaming community in a hot minute. I saw tons of people out there on social media talking about, yeah, Oblivion's cool and you should play it and all that, but please don't ignore Expedition 33. And they were saying it because it is a special game. It is a small indie team that is doing something incredible, and a game that oozes passion. All of these people rallying behind it to support it, and guess what? It's been a pretty huge success for what is a small studio putting out their first game, even if there are veterans there that know what they're doing. Especially for a game that is this strange. A French JRPG with one of the most complex battle systems ever put into the genre, in a wholly original world, a brand new IP from top to bottom with interesting lore and characters and all sorts of cool stuff. And it's performing incredibly well. The future of the developers, Sandfall, at this point, is basically guaranteed. And I want to say that is huge for the industry. That is fantastic. And some people might say that it didn't matter how many people were out there pushing for Expedition 33 to be seen, how many people were making noise about it or telling others that you shouldn't miss it, but I think it definitely does. Every drop of water matters. A game that resonated with the people who played it, and the people who played it wanted others to do so. Just good old-fashioned word of mouth and people excited for something
Right.
new. Feels so alien in this industry at this level. Sure.
And they've been trying to hijack the industry for quite some time. For quite some time. The agenda has gone on for like what, 10 years? Just to shit on gamers. Like we ain't shit, but who's actually buying your material? Huh?
Or indie games all day, every day. And during this video, I've shown you a ton of indie games as B-roll that I recommend, that are cool, that you should check out. But the
Yes, thank you, because RoboCop is something that I wrote on my list. That's something I want to play offline, most likely.
ambitions of something like
If I can
Sandfall
get to it.
are much bigger. The future of studios like Larian or Saber or Sandfall are not
That brings up another point, and I'm not sure if I mentioned it in this video, but why wouldn't companies delegate a new installment of the previous successor to the same company that worked on the game before? If it did well, exceptionally well, like Baldur's Gate 3, why wouldn't they hand it back to Larian Studios instead of going with a new company? That makes absolutely no sense to me. Like, if you want success, continue handing that company the game. But I guess it has to do with its time crunch, and it has to do with many factors. And they have a certain time frame to make it. Perhaps, I don't know. Like, let me know in the comments. I don't know.
the same
I don't know
as
what
Toby
variables.
Fox. And that is where a lot of the really good
involved.
news comes in, but where a lot of the danger does as well. Now, I briefly want to pause. I was fortunate enough to receive early review code for Clair Obscur. I got to play it 3 weeks early or something like that, so that I could put out my review on the embargo date. Really weird hour, but still. Unfortunately, this last week, I've had some very serious personal issues. Life can be tough sometimes, and I honestly feel like I didn't do the best job in my review. It wasn't
It kind of makes you wonder what he went through, but positive vibes to this man, good vibes. Hopefully everything gets better.
up to my standards, and I can make excuses about, life can get complicated. But I
Yeah,
feel really
absolutely.
sad
And it
that a game that
it probably reflected
honestly
on your
love
gameplay.
so much, I don't think I did it justice in that review. So if you want to skip ahead, you can do that. But if you would, I would kind of like to make it up to the game and just let me glaze it just a little bit, because it is so important. And I do think it is tied to the general theme of this video, because we're talking about a lot of intangibles here, about how a game feels, about the passion, the care, the love, and these are things that you can't measure. This isn't the number of polygons. But I genuinely think that it's very difficult for somebody to play Clair Obscur and not feel the kind of just bright-eyed naivete that the developers have. This joy and care and
Naivete, another word for it, innocence.
stress and worry, but excitement to share something that they really wanted to make with the world.
Like the
It's a
innocent
very
ones that they
special
have.
feeling. I say this in the best way possible. It's a bunch of nerds making something really nerdy for other nerds to enjoy, which, funnily enough, I think is also a great description of Baldur's Gate 3. Again,
Period. It took me a long time to get to Baldur's Gate, but once I did, I played the shit out of that game. I think I played it 3 times so far. This time is my Scarlet Witch run, offline, of course.
in the best way possible. Clair Obscur is the type of game where you can listen to every song, and you can go listen to the soundtrack right now. They released it 145 tracks.
I've been hearing a lot about the soundtrack of this game. I think he's the second person to talk about it, and as someone who is a soundtrack enthusiast, I love soundtracks so much. I'm gonna have to check it out because it's giving Ave Maria vibes, and I love music that's like that, very peaceful, very relaxing. I'm a fan of soundtracks, so I'll check it out soon. As soon as I have time to check out Clair Obscur, I will.
And every single one is
I like the
just
floating dynamics too. I like how they
in
travel.
what it wants to communicate. That you can tell that soundtrack was composed together with the game. to make it all fit and feel unified. You can tell in its combat system every single influence that the people that worked on it had, and just how deep their love and reverence for JRPG goes. It's a game that you can tell people were really excited to make, and it plays incredibly. It very well could be my favorite JRPG combat system ever, and I'm one of those nerds. And also just like a harrowing story that's very human, and that hit me at a time in my life that I think was just perfect. I say this smiling, but I really shouldn't. I really can't recommend it enough. Not just because it's a sign of the times to come of these fantastic studios that are shaping the way the industry is going to move forward, but because it's just really good. And I was really proud of this comment on the review saying that these are the types of developers that deserve our money, and I agree. They do. Okay, that was me making peace with my own failures, but we gotta keep going.
Life goes on. C'est la vie. It's like certain videos I make, I upload, I don't like them, and sometimes I wish I could edit and re-upload, but you gotta move on.
The cycle. Guys, do you know how to find out how...
Unless I'm really, 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 really passionate about something, then I'm like, you know what, I'm gonna do it over.
Heavy a red chili pepper is? All you have to do is give it away, give it away, give it away now.
Shut up.
Please subscribe. I often get into a lot of trouble saying that I think big studios, gigantic studios should exist. These massive AAA things are really important. I think that they should be there. And a lot of this video is me digging deeper into things I've mentioned in passing in previous videos. And I mentioned that because the cycle, especially when you consider that the market really can't expand infinitely, is categorized by the failure of some companies that are slowly trending downwards or fighting to survive, as we see with stuff like Ubisoft or some of the lower results that we are seeing from Electronic Arts and things like that, will be accompanied by the rise of these newer ones. I know this is gonna sound crazy, but at one point, Ubisoft made exclusively amazing games. At one point in time, EA was a synonym of quality and not predatory microtransactions and gambling with football players. These were small companies of visionaries that saw the potential of video games, the first wave of it, and rode that wave to success and created empires. And as the empires crumble, new ones have to take their place. I don't think we're far from a world where Larian is publishing 2 games a year, which would be a pretty big publisher. And that's because they have expanded, and they have more people developing more than one game. They have a publishing branch, so if they wanted to sign other studios under them, much like big publishers have done all the time, they could. And then we are at risk once again of the need to sustain everything, to keep the lights on.
What the hell? Hold on, I was saying that was such a great game. Come back to me. I just didn't like the fact that they had, like, only an alien can save the day. What? A reptile can save the day?
In how they can't take risks, or they can't provide their audience with what they're asking for. Forbid them from really thinking outside of the box, from the most important decisions being made in boardrooms and not excitedly over a computer looking at potential ideas, or at a bar with people spitballing ideas. None of this is based on hocus pocus. This is based on how many other industries have worked, especially from their beginning. Doesn't matter if it's like tech or cars or whatever you're into. There were probably giants at the start of it that fell, and others that were smaller took their place, and you can see it everywhere. I think I've even seen this happen in local breweries, to be honest, that just suddenly are nationwide. But that all comes with dangers to us. So let me go back to what I was saying about why I think these giant companies should exist. The huge resources, stability, raw manpower that giant studios have allows them to take on projects that nobody else could
That looks
take
like a
on.
fun game.
It's just that they often don't pursue them or
What game is
don't
that?
know how to
I'm
manage
always looking to play as badass
raw
games.
manpower that giant studios have
you're-
allows
okay.
them to take on
I'll look it-
projects that nobody
I'll look it
else
back, I'm done.
could take on. It's just that they often don't pursue them or don't know how to manage what they have in order to do so. It's very difficult for other people to try and push video games forward, to try incredibly bold new ideas at their largest, unless you're one of these gigantic companies that continues to mismanage themselves. This is why I love AAA, because they represent the people that should be pushing the frontier. They're the ones that have the actual resources to push forward, and yet they don't. And so,
Because they made
today,
the
as
error
we are
of
moving
hiring
towards
people
a
that were
new
underqualified.
cycle, as we see the writing on the walls and the leaves,
Not Witcher 4. Not Witcher 4. Witcher 4 is such a disappointment. Like, they had every opportunity to steer us into the way of the witch, with the elder blood. You know how cool it would have been to play as a witch who's overpowered as. But nah, y'all had to make her underpowered, masculine, like The Witcher. Come on, man. Like we always knew that was gonna lead up to us playing as Ciri, but as a witch, not a Witcher.
in the tea, we have to hope
So it's
that
kind of
those
disappointing.
that come
It's kind of
after
disappointing. Especially the fact that it's CG Project Red. I mean, they did really good with Cyberpunk after all the patches, but
are going to learn the lessons of those who came before, that they won't succumb to greed, that they won't box themselves
That Chimera,
in with
some
their
form of- that's
investments,
where they went.
that they won't find themselves beholden to market trends, and instead will do everything possible to create new ones. We have to hope that when these newer studios that are coming out with just authentic bangers that resonate with people to the same degree that games resonated with me when I was 10 years old, they will accomplish the dream that you can only accomplish with the resources of success. And if they don't, we'll know very quickly because they'll put predatory microtransactions in their game along with some sort of season pass that tries to instill FOMO in the players. Please don't.
Oh, that's
Please
hilarious.
stop. Please. Please.
that's funny. That tries to instill FOMO, but we all know those are the ones that are successful and will never be successful. So
I'm talking directly to every single major publisher out there. Stop it. It's bad for the industry, and it's not gonna get you more money, man.
the only microtransaction games that actually do work and have you want to and give you a sense of FOMO, because if you don't pay it, you won't win the storyline, is Choices. That's the only, and I'm guilty of playing that. But if you know how to get around it with an Android, then you know. I'm not gonna tell you, but yeah.
Stop. It's not gonna work. Sorry for the interruption. All right, we're on it. And this is where we come in. We get to dictate what succeeds. That's what we do. Even if we're not doing it intentionally, it is what the customer does. We shape the market. As we head into what seems like a recession, and more people are going to be very careful with how they spend their dwindling time and money.
Exactly, especially with tariffs, the pendulum swinging, a lot of factors, and inflation.
It's the
So at this point, the only way we're gonna spend on an $80 game is if it's not for family, and if it actually meets all the criteria points. If it's a game that people are actually anticipating, kind of like Grand Theft Auto 6, which has a lot of cooks in the kitchen. So they're also compensating for that as well, which is why they're gonna charge 80 to 100 to compensate for the amount of employees that they have, and it better be. And I'm hoping it's good. Because if it isn't, then GTA 7, which probably maybe might not be a thing, we'll get the back end of that.
perfect set of circumstances for the large ones to fall
It'll get the whiplash of what 6 was if it's actually woke.
and the small ones to rise. People will stop investing that time and
haven't
money
played it.
into the super safe projects of giant corporations that are still trying to make as much money as possible, money that a lot of people no longer have, and instead are going to turn to actually fantastic projects that are charging people less than before for games that are better than before. They're going to turn to indie games that cater very specifically to what they want and therefore are 100% worth every single cent. And the only thing that we really have to do is make sure that when things go off the rails, when someone strays from the path of making the games that make us feel things, to shout, call that out, and say, "Stop selling me garbage skins."
It's good to call it out. However, it's good to allow artists creative freedom. So there needs to be balance, you know. And if you call them out and they're like bitter about it, then you already know that there's no hope there. However, it's good for developers to keep their fan service in mind, but also go along with the story that they want to craft and tell for the player.
Okay? Stop trying to siphon my time. Make something
Stop trying to
cool,
siphon my
dude.
time.
And so it's a pretty easy job in a lot of ways. We just have to be informed and enjoy great games. And that
Which is what Baldur's Gate 3 did. They told the story that they wanted to tell, and they added some aspects that gamers wanted.
and the market will just take shape after that. But I will say, it doesn't hurt from time to time to, make your voice heard. We are
Right.
at a very delicate moment in time, economically and for our purposes here, in the video game industry. Enough voices at this point are enough to topple or really destabilize things and maybe shape them better. Enough complaints about predatory practices in live service games. And equally important, enough people championing the fantastic projects that come along does have a noticeable impact. I also take my responsibility in all of this very seriously. I am incredibly lucky that there's people out there, a lot of you,
Yes!
who trust me.
Sorry, speaking of soundtracks, I recognize that one, The Gates of Hell from Bayonetta.
And what I have to say when I say something is bad or when I say something is good, because I do my best
By the way, that's what made me subscribe to this man.
to really dig through stuff and bring you
Aside from some other
information
qualities
that's
I'll list at
worth
the end of the video.
listening to. And I take that responsibility very seriously in me and hopefully us doing what we can to shape video games into the future as something that is amazing and that we get to keep enjoying and be happy and hopefully also be accessible for people. That they can be things that we love outright instead of things that we love despite some of the terrible decisions that are made that harm us or that take away potential projects that could be amazing from us. Because with this second wave, this new cycle of games, comes a maturity and an evolution of them in every sense. As a medium for storytelling, as a medium for exploration of play, as a medium of just pure entertainment, as a medium of art, and yes, as products that need to be sold in order to make money, and it needs to strike a balance. And as that maturity comes in and the balance is struck, we will be here to enjoy it. Video game
Absolutely.
industry is experiencing its biggest transformation ever.
Yep.
Right now. We're
Yup.
living it. And with as much doom and gloom as we can see every single day out there, I'm saying buckle up, smile, and enjoy the ride. Because video games, pretty freaking awesome. And they're not going anywhere. Ubisoft can release as many new NFT games. They just released a new Might and Magic NFT game. Good job, Ubisoft. You will not take good games from us. Over my dead body. Because we will keep fighting for great games and enjoying them. I've been mugged. If you
It's the
enjoyed
only-
this
it's the
look
only form of
into the
entertainment
state
we
of the
have.
industry at the moment, I hope it was entertaining. Hit the like button. Matters a ton. If I did manage to earn your subscription throughout this video and you're interested in my news, reviews, previews, essays, just like this one, and long-form retrospective, subscribe. All I can say is that all of it matters a ton, and I take it very seriously as a duty to fight for great games and enjoy them and spread that love and talk about cool stuff. A very extra special thanks.
There we go. There we go. All right. Well, he gave some really good insight on the course of the gaming industry, which I really appreciate. Subscribe to this man. He has really good in-depth details. He's funny, and he has some charming gravitas to him. So let me know what you think down in the comments below, what you think about this video. Let me know what other gaming videos you want me to react to, like subscribe if you vibe, and I'll see you guys in the live streams. Later.